Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back, Chicago's Morning Answer. I'm John Anthony, filling in for Dan and Amy alongside Charles Thomas, former ABC 7 reporter. I thought that interview with Lopez was pretty good, Charles.
Yeah, Lopez is always interesting to hear.
Yeah,
especially because he is about the only voice of reason.
Napolitano is another one. You know,
Napolitano.
Yeah, he comes out. He's been on my show. He's somebody that speaks the truth.
Anthony Beale.
Yeah,
I think makes common sense.
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with party affiliation either. It's just common sense, y'all.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all it is.
You know, after watching when I first heard I was going to be doing the show with you, Charles, the other day, I immediately wanted to bring a good friend of mine on, especially after hearing the Secret Service agent continuing to deflect all of the questions to the FBI. You know, well, that's not something. Well, the FBI is handling the investigation.
That was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God, that was beyond awful.
That was awful.
But I reached out to my good friend, and I will never initial him because he hates. He called me out live on radio when I gave him his initials. You know, like AOC. I will never do that again. He's a former FBI. Listen to this. Listen to his pedigree. He's a former FBI, Navy SEAL, Air Marshal, and currently a security contractor. He's written the book Sheep No More. He has an expert podcast. You name the talk show, he's on it. Except social media has been shadow banning him because I haven't seen any of his stuff. Jonathan T. Gilliam, welcome back to Chicago's Morning Answer.
What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. There's so many places to start with this. How about we start with the assassination attempt? What went wrong there, Jonathan? I mean, how do we have such a colossal failure protecting a candidate and former president of the United States of America?
Well, it was so bad that I started to ask that question: how could this occur? As I was watching it happen, a friend of mine, one of the guys that worked for me, he wrote me and was like, "Trump just got shot," and I'm like, "What?" So I turned the TV on, and as I see the first replay, I'm sitting there with my jaw dropped because if Trump had a nicked artery, he could have bled out by the time they got him into that truck, and then the time it took the truck to get out of there. And I was like, okay, this is horrible. This is like, who are guarding him? They're not even tall as he is. Like, who are these people? Then when they pan back and I start to see the videotape that people are sending in real quick, I'm like, who did the threat assessment? Who was the advance here? And then about 3 days later, they revealed the timeline of events. And when the timeline was added in there, it just didn't make sense that they knew the guy was there. They didn't approach him. They didn't stop Trump from going on the stage. There was an Iranian threat. Once they determined that this guy was on the roof with a gun, the Secret Service knew it for 2 minutes and still didn't pull Trump off the roof. And then they finally take a shot after he takes a shot.
Right.
Now, what does that tell you from an investigative standpoint is that their bad tactics, their bad training, their bad decisions created a fatal funnel for an individual to get on a building and take a shot at Trump. When that came out, when I finally saw that, then I have to start questioning, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I have to start questioning, why was this allowed to happen?
Yeah.
Because there was so much incompetence that it created that fatal funnel. So was that just incompetence, or was that done on purpose to create that and in hopes that perhaps somebody would take a shot sometime?
Right.
I
know you're not
evidence is there for that.
Right. I know you're not a conspiracy theorist. That's why I wanted you on. You speak the truth, even if it's the truth we don't want to hear. What's your theory on? I mean, a lot more people who have military backgrounds, Secret Service backgrounds, FBI backgrounds are starting to say that might have been more than one shooter. What's your theory on that?
I mean, there could have been. I've seen no evidence of it, and the number of shots that you hear have been pretty much accounted for. So the other issue that we have now is that conspiracy theories pop up, and American people are too lazy to go and do the research on not just what they're being told, but who's telling them. And you can look at every single thing that happens. These people have podcasts, they have social media platforms where they make money off of clicks, and they think they know stuff because they sit around with each other and talk and make up stuff, and they put it out, and then everybody else puts it out. So, when I hear a conspiracy theory such as two shooters, and this guy, they had a video where he analyzed a video, I then go back and I look at the news and I see if I can pick out anywhere where the sheriff's department or police department said something, and then Secret Service said something, and I try to look for evidence that I can get, and you'll see that there was more than one shooter. There was two different TAC guys who took a shot. One was accurate, one wasn't, and then you had the shooter that was shooting. So, the conspiracy theories lead people away from the definite evidence that this same thing that happened with the FBI when it came to investigating, and they created evidence, fake evidence, pushed it through FISA. Everybody said, "Oh my gosh, this, they blame this." It is this thing that goes through the government, the IRS with Lois Lerner, the FBI, the CIA, in the way that they work, and there's specific things that they do with the 20 or whatever it was intelligence executives that signed a letter that was fake about Trump and about the laptop.
Hunter Biden.
All these, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same problem, all the same politics, and then when you get down on the ground, those things are creating either the avenue for the investigation or a fatal funnel for a shot to be taken.
Jonathan, this is Charles Thomas, the co-host this morning. I look at the fact that, I tend toward the incompetence angle on this, because this shooter apparently lived only 35 miles from the location. To think of this being some international conspiracy, how could this guy end up so near to where the president was speaking? If he had been imported, that's okay. We can talk about conspiracies, but the guy lived just 35 miles or 35 minutes from the actual scene.
Well, that's why I don't. The conspiracy of who did it is not as important for me at this point, except for the fact if there's a connection. But the how he was able to do it, and when I look at that how, I see incompetence. But when I see the timeline, I see knowing or willing or purposeful, I guess is the best word, purposeful actions that put the president in harm's way. It wasn't just the bad threat assessment or the bad tactics. It was the fact that they never pulled him off the stage, that they let him go on there. And then when they knew somebody was there, they still didn't pull him off the stage. That these things they add up. I mean, over a period of time, when you look at the totality of the circumstances, you have to start asking, why was they so dead set on keeping him on that stage? And that plus the tactics, you look at the funnel and you have to ask, was that purposeful?
Yeah, and especially it's coming out that the Secret Service knew there was a viable threat and yet still put Donald Trump on that stage. But
they kept calling him a suspicious person.
Yeah.
And we don't treat suspicious people as though they're not a threat. We treat them as though they are a threat until we vet the threat.
Yeah.
And that wasn't done.
Right. Now, let's talk about the Secret Service director. What's happening? How is the investigation being played out right now with the FBI? If you were there, I mean, what would you do? How would you start off this investigation? And how much of the information would you tell to Congress and to the American people?
Well, first of all, I want to know who's doing this investigation, just like I want to know who did that advance and the threat assessments and who was in charge of the Secret Service detail. right? Because I want to know if they have political leanings.
Ooh.
I want to know who the people are doing the investigation for the FBI, because if any of those people were a part of the Mar-a-Lago investigation, the dossier, the fake dossier investigation, who worked with FISA judges illegally, I want to know, because those people continue to resonate in the FBI that were part of that. I want to know who's doing the investigation. And then as I'm leading it, it depends on who was in charge of that event. If the director had direct oversight, which she says she didn't, then telling the director what they found, you should have confidence in the director to tell her, we found this many bullet casings, for instance. We know that there was only one shooter here. We know we see that you didn't have the fence, the perimeter done, and that's how it's okay to tell the director if she didn't have any oversight of that mission, because she's the director of the Secret Service. She can start making changes.
Right.
You know, the other thing is the shooter himself. We know so very little about this person at this point, and we're, 10 days after, 10, 11 days after this? We still don't know who
and why
this guy was. Yeah, why? What was he doing?
The only people we know, and this is, I'm not a conspiracy guy. This is true, and I think most people see this. If a white cop shoots a black criminal, you are going to know everything about that cop in 2 seconds, right? Yep. And you're only going to know about all the good things that the criminal did. In the case of when somebody who is transgender or somebody apparently shoots Donald Trump, nothing comes out about those people. Right. You don't know. It's being kept for security reasons. Well, there's certain things. I mean, what if he's connected? What if people are out there and don't realize it? They haven't even reached out to the public to see if the public knows anything. Right. It's very odd.
And Jonathan, you know, the rumor is that he had some overseas encrypted connections on his phone as well. I mean, that all just, isn't that weird?
It reminds me a lot of Nashville.
Yeah,
the Nashville shooting.
Which they still haven't released the manifesto, right?
Right. Well,
and here's the thing. The reporting of this is what you got to understand, is that the leftists in the government, and not just politicians, they know how to use propaganda and subversion. So within a day or two, the FBI puts out a press release saying we don't believe there's any mental issues. We haven't seen any evidence of social media or group. We haven't seen any involvement with groups, radical groups. Like, why would they put that out 2 days afterwards, unless they're trying to program everybody so that they think, okay, well, the FBI didn't see anything, so there's probably nothing there. Okay, so this guy didn't have social media, but he's got 2 phones.
Yeah.
How many 20-year-olds do you know that have 2 phones?
Yeah.
That just, unless they're up to something or the business that they work for gives it to them, nobody walks around with 2 phones and a detonator. That is somebody that either had training or would have had a presence on their computer where they learned all these things.
Could he have been radicalized? You think that's a theory?
Well, apparently his mom's a Democrat and his dad's a libertarian, so I think that's probably about as radical as you can get. So I think that's possible. And the parents who called the police department and said their son was missing and their rifle was missing knew something about that kid.
Yep.
They knew something about him, and that is also being left out of all this.
Yeah, you think the reporting gets released if Donald Trump does not win? Because I think the only way we find out what we need to find out is if Trump wins and releases it.
Well, first of all, the media has pretty much already moved on.
Yeah,
it was Kimberly Cheadle, and now they've moved from now it's to Kamala, but they've moved from why and how did this happen. They've moved from that. They've reported a little bit here and there, but to me, next to the FBI fake dossier, which is everything the FBI does is honest, supposed to be justice, which is blind and not. I mean, I always thought you'd go to jail if you falsified evidence, but that and what you're seeing now, these are, I think, 2 of the biggest issues and plain issues that everybody can see since the federal government that we know it has existed.
Yeah.
And I think the way the media turns so fast that I just think, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
No,
I don't.
you are. I don't think so. I personally don't think so.
Trump could lose. Everybody sees this strong man get up and do this fist and says fight, and the media has filtered that away.
Yes, they have. Jonathan Gilliam, former FBI, Navy SEAL, Air Marshal, currently a security contractor, author of the book Sheep No More. I'm telling you, that's a great read. If you haven't read his book, Sheep No More, go out and get it wherever books are sold. Expert. Are you still doing Expert podcast?
I did a little short one the other day. I need to start doing it, but it's so. Short comment. Podcasts are flooded with nonsense and idiots, and I just it's hard for me to step into that arena because I don't want to be compared to those people.
Yeah. Are you being shadow banned on social media? Because I have not seen a lot of your stuff, brother.
Yeah, I go and do stuff, and I get like 5 hits on it, whereas I used to get a million.
I know. I mean, they have completely shut you down because I used to see your stuff every morning when I wake up. Your stuff would pop right up. I mean, I hate that because you're a great voice. I'm not gonna say for people on the right, but for common sense people. So that's why I love you, brother.
Well, I think if people do it, if people take my stuff and put it out, or they hear me talking, they record it and put it out, I think that'll help a lot. And if Trump is listening or anybody knows Trump, somebody get me a meeting with that guy. Everybody says they're going to. Nobody ever does. For 4 years I've been dealing with. Even Hannity never got me a meeting with him.
Yeah, Scott Casper, Mark Vargas, you guys are listening. Make that happen. I'll connect you with some of those guys, Jonathan.
You got it, buddy.
All right, Jonathan T. Gilliam, thanks so much for joining us on the Chicago Morning Answer. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro Answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need.